I decided to record a video in order to go through the exercises I gave you. I realized that for some of you, without any explanation, it seems difficult to understand why the corrections are what they are. So I will go quickly through a few sentences to really precise and make sure you understand and clarify some of the points that have been made in those exercises. Right, so as you could see in this first exercise, you were meant to translate from the French sentences into the English. It's always a difficult exercise, but here, obviously, being the subjunctive exercises, you were expected to use the subjunctive. Many of you actually understood, but sometimes don't forget that it's a base form that I have to use. So sometimes you forget that you have to use this form of the verb without any added suffixes, any added s's, any added ed or anything like this. So I'm going to explain. In this first sentence, il est important que les jeunes reçoivent. Il est important que is a trigger for us to use the subjunctive. So in English it's the same. It's important that young people. And what I did in this exercise is I used the British subjunctive, which is should receive. Right. If you want to make it MCQ style, you need to simply use the base form and that's it. So you would just use this, okay, and you would say it's important that young people receive a good education, and that's it. Now, second sentence, I was delighted that. Delighted that is a feeling. Usually feeling triggers the subjunctive. So I was delighted that she should ask. Well, that's the British version. Now, if you use the version expected in the official American MCQs, what you need to do is simply use the base forms here. So you would say she asked. I was delighted that she asked me to stay. Now, it's really strange because I keep repeating you that you need to use an S when there's a third person like here. But because this is a subjunctive, the only thing you have to do is remove this S. And you don't need to add ed at the end to make sure there's a verb agreement. So I was delighted that she should ask me to stay is the British version. I was delighted that she asked me to stay is the American base form that we use for subjunctive. And this is going to be the case for all the other sentences. So the general ordered that the prisoner be executed. I know it sounds really strange, but you don't have to use should. Okay, you can simply say be executed. You really don't have to use this one. And that's why it makes it a bit weird sometimes to use it. I am furious that he should react so stupidly. Another thing you could say is, and this is once again the American version, which is the one expected for the competitive examinations, I am furious that he reacts so stupidly. And this is going to be the case for all the other sentences. So here I used this base form. I suggest that he be invited. It was essential that he make a decision. There's no mistake here. Once again, remember, no S's because it's a base form. I suggested that she take a holiday. He insisted that I stay. Right, he requested that his name not be given. Be careful when there's a negation. You need to use the not in front of this base form. A bit more difficult. Now, the second part of the exercise required that you used like the modal forms of the past. So let me explain. Il est temps que tu achètes un nouveau manteau. Here you can see the French subjunctive, and this French subjunctive will be translated differently from the previous exercise. So all of those belong to this form of subjunctive that we use with the base form when you get words like he demands, he requests, he asks, it's important, I'm delighted, I'm furious. Now, we're moving to a second type of subjunctive, which is triggered by things like this, it's time. When you see it's time in a sentence, you know that the rule is always it's time plus the past. And I know it's strange, but I think I've explained this before. It's because the subjunctive is a projection into a surreal world that does not exist. And the reason why we use the past is because it's an indication that you are broken off from the present situation. You're removed from the present situation. So it's time you bought a new coat. Okay? This time you bought. I know it's strange. This has nothing to do with the past, like it happened in the past and it's over. It's simply that you need to use the past after its time. Same thing with imagine. Imagine we're projecting ourselves in an imaginary situation, obviously. So you have to use the past. Be careful here. Imagine he had discovered the truth, because here it's already in the past in French. If I said imagine qu'il découvre la vérité, then I would say imagine the discovered. Imagine, actually, I made a mistake because it's a plural here. Okay, so that's going to be they. Oops. They, there you go. If I'd said imagine qu'il découvre la vérité, imagine they discovered the truth. But because you already have a past on this sentence, in this sentence, then you need this past here in the English sentence as well. Okay. Imagine they had discovered the truth. And my computer's unhappy about this space. Now, je regrette que tu m'en aies parlé. The really natural translation of je regrette is I wish. And I wish is another trigger for you to use a past. I wish, you know, it's I wish plus the past, and that's how it works. So it can be either this, or it can be I wish plus the past participle. And the difference between the two is, if you said je regrette que tu m'en parles right now, I would say I wish you didn't tell me about this. I would use the past because the situation concerns what is going on now. Now, je regrette que tu m'en aies parlé refers to an action that is finished. We're not in the present situation or present moment anymore. We're in the past. So I wish you had told me about this. I wish I'd known. So we were going to use the past participle because this refers to a present situation, okay, and this refers to an event that is over, okay, and that's why most of the time we say that when you use the past participle, it means that you have regret about something. Here you've got hope. If you say je regrette que tu ne viennes pas, present situation, means you can still come if you want to. But if you say je regrette que tu ne sois pas venu, it means that the event is over and that the person didn't come, and you have regret about this situation. Same situation, well, actually same type of sentence in the next one. I wish you were here, okay, because you need this past. But if I'd said je regrette que tu n'aies pas été là, I would say I wish you had been here. I would have used the past participle. J'aurais aimé que tu me demandes d'abord. J'aurais aimé. I would rather is how we would say j'aimerais. Okay. So I would rather. And remember, if you talk about something in the present situation, again, you'd say I would rather plus the subject plus the past. J'aimerais que tu fasses tes devoirs. I would rather you did your homework. Right, but here we are in this situation. Would rather plus subject plus past participle, because this is actually referring to a situation that is over. J'aurais aimé que tu me demandes. It's not j'aimerais que tu, c'est j'aurais aimé que tu, right? So the wish is not on the present situation because it is over. J'aurais aimé means that you didn't. If I said j'aurais aimé que tu me demandes d'abord, it means that you probably didn't ask and did it anyway, right? So that's why we say I would rather you had asked me first, right? So we use the past participle because once again it refers to a past event. Quite unlike the first one that refers to a present situation. I'm not sure this is the right thing. Present situation. There you go. Right. Next one, suppose. Suppose is when you project yourself in a world that doesn't exist. So this is again one of those triggers that force you to use the past. Okay, suppose we sold the car, because it's as if you said, imagine we sold the car. So it's you're projecting yourself in an imaginary world. You're cutting yourself off from reality. So you would use the past. That's how it works. Now the next one, il faut que tu appelles ta sœur ce soir. You must call your sister tonight. I'm not even sure why this is what. Oh yeah, it's very easy. Well, in French you need the subjunctive in this sentence, but in English it's very easy. You must call your sister. There's no subjunctive in this sentence in English. Il aimerait qu'elle l'invite. He would like, and be careful, this is another construction you need to remember. Would like someone to do something. Okay, so this is the important bit, okay? You would like someone to do something. It's exactly the same as want someone to do something, okay? You always need to use this to after using want. So would like someone to do something, I would want someone to do something. So he would like her to invite him. Next one, bois de l'eau maintenant pour que tu n'aies pas soif après. Pour que, right, in English, this pour que here is translated as so that. And what happens in English is that we use just the normal sentence, so that you don't do this, so that you don't do that. Sometimes that's what I do when you use British English. You can say should again, so that you should, so that you might or may. We use a model to show that there's something going on, but most of the time you use the sentence as it is, so you won't be thirsty later. See, actually I've used will not. I could have said so that you might not be thirsty. I'm trying to use a model to show that there's something going on, okay? That there's a form of subjunctive. Il se peut qu'elle ne vienne pas seule. This is typically a sentence in which you are announcing the probability or the likelihood of an event happening. So you would say she might not come alone. It's a very different formulation in English. You have to use this might, which indicates that this is possible, right? And then you complete your sentence. She might not come alone. Right? Now this sentence was a bit strange, but que tu sois là ou non, whether you're here or not. As you can see in English, we say whether you are here. Okay, we use the simple present tense in order to say que tu sois là ou non, whether you're here or not. Whether is not something that necessarily triggers the subjunctive, even though there is one phrase, but only one phrase that you have to learn by heart. It's not something you can construct yourself. It's when we say whether it be. For example, whether it be rainy or sunny, I will go outside. But that's the only one. Here, it doesn't mean que ce soit, it means que tu sois. So this simply means que ce soit ça ou ça, whether it be this or this. But it's a typical sentence you have to learn by heart, and otherwise whether doesn't necessarily force you to use subjunctive. I'm upset that you didn't write. So I'm upset. See, what happens is sometimes we can use the sentence normally, we can use the past, that this happens a lot, right? I suppose you could say I'm upset that you not right, but upset is not a word that triggers this form of subjunctive in English, like I'm upset that you not right. If you say this, it means that you do not write now, so we need to indicate this was in the past. I'm upset now about something you did in the past. I'm upset you didn't write. Okay, so you will use this past here to indicate that you refer to a past situation. I'm unhappy about a situation that is over. Right. Il ne réussira pas à moins que vous ne l'aidez. He won't succeed unless you help him. So as you can see, à moins que in French requires this form of subjunctive. In English, unless is a word that is followed simply by the present tense, unless you help him. Imagine you were rich. Same situation as we saw already. Imagine is a trigger, is a prompt for you to use the past. Imagine we did this. Imagine we bought that. Il est grand temps. It's high time. I've already explained. So when you use it's high time, time, then you need to use the past. So it's high time the children went to bed, very easy. Si seulement je savais trouver la réponse à toutes ces questions. Well, this is pretty similar to the French, to be honest. If only I knew, je savais is in the past, I knew is in the past. So if only I knew where to find the answers to all those questions. The rest of the sentence doesn't present any particular problems. Si seulement elle avait téléphoné, if only she had phoned. Once again, very similar to the French, you get avait téléphoné. So it's past perfect in French, so you need a past perfect in English. It's like, if only is a very easy one because it's one that really sounds and looks and works like the French, okay? So if only she had phoned. If I said si seulement elle téléphonait, je pourrais l'aider, par exemple, nous pourrions l'aider. Si seulement elle téléphonait, if only she phoned. But here, si seulement elle avait téléphoné, we translate this avait, had, if only she had phoned. So very similar. Si seulement ils avaient pu empêcher les dégâts, if only they could have prevented the damage. Okay, pouvoir in the past is could, so really similar to the French. Now, j'aimerais tant que tu viennes avec moi au concert. I started with I wish you came because it's a wish that concerns the present situation. I want you to come with me now to the concert. The concert has not happened yet, so has not taken place. So I wish you came. I wish you would come. You can use would sometimes after wish. You could use would because it's in the past. And when you say would, it stresses the fact that the person is willing to. When you say I wish you would come, it means I wish you had the will to come, that you were really willing to come. Okay, so but basically it's the same principle. If you say came or would, both those forms are in the past. All you have to remember is when you see I wish, you need to use the past. That's it. J'aimerais bien que tu n'utilises pas mon téléphone sans ma permission. I wish you wouldn't use my phone, or I wish you didn't use my phone. Okay. Yeah, that could work, that you didn't use my phone. When you say wouldn't, usually there's a form of impatience from the person. When you say, I wish you wouldn't, it means like, I'm irritating at you because you willingly use my phone without asking for my permission. And apparently that person is not happy with this. So I wish you wouldn't, it has a form of irritation that is present due to this wouldn't. But if you said, I wish you didn't use my phone, it's perfectly fine. Je regrette qu'ils aient accepté l'invitation. As you can see, this is an event that happened in the past. If you said, je regrette qu'ils acceptent right now, say, I wish they accepted. Or I wish they didn't accept, sorry. But because this regards something in the past, you say, I wish they had not accepted. Now, my tip for you, if you want to use I wish and you really can't remember if you need to use the past or the past perfect, try to replace it by if only, and you will know which tense to use. Because it was, as I said, because if only works like the French, you will find the right verb tense to use. So if I said, je regrette qu'ils aient accepté l'invitation, it's exactly the same as saying, si seulement ils avaient accepté l'invitation. Non, si seulement ils n'avaient pas, pardon. Si seulement ils n'avaient pas accepté l'invitation. There's a form of regret over the fact that they accepted. So you said, I wish they had not, or I wish they had refused the invitation. We're back to the prefer with would rather. So it's something we have already gone through, so I'm going quickly through those. She would rather you waited because the subject number 1 here is different from subject number 2. Okay, so that's why you get this past. Maybe that's something I need to re-indicate. So if the subject number 1 is different, well, actually, it's the same. I'm going to do the same to start with. If it's the same, if you said, I would prefer to go to Spain, I would rather go to Spain, all you do is you add your verb. I, subject number 1, would rather go. I simply use my verb. Okay. Now, if the subject number 1 is different, so subject number 1, I would rather you, for example, so subject number 2, then you use the past. Be careful, it's subtle. Okay, so really need to remember that one. A very, very important rule for you. I would rather do this. I would rather you did this. She would rather you waited. Look at this sentence. Subject number 1 is nous. Subject number 2 is personne. So 2 different subjects. So we would rather nobody knew. Okay, I need to use the second formula here because my second subject is different from my first. Ils auraient certainement préféré que la réunion ait lieu en Belgique. They would certainly rather the meeting had taken place in Belgium. Be careful this time. The event is over, it's past. So when you want to refer to something that is over, you will say subject number 1 plus would rather plus subject number 2 plus past perfect, because this is something that is over. I'm not saying ils auraient préféré que la réunion ils préféreraient. If I said ils préféraient que la réunion ait lieu en Belgique, then I would say they would rather the meeting took place in Belgium. Quand je dis ils auraient préféré, it means that the preference is over, it's in the past. So that's what you have to look for, okay, in this sentence. You have to look for this ils préféreraient or ils auraient préféré. And that's how it works. And if this aurait préféré is in the past, then you use the past perfect. I know it's complicated, but you need to learn this. Okay, so they would certainly rather the meeting had taken place in Belgium. A bit more complicated in the form of a question. N'auriez-vous pas préféré que je lui donne moi-même? Wouldn't you rather I had given it to her myself? Once again, vous auriez préféré means that this is in the past. So I know I'm going to have to use a past perfect in the second part of my sentence, like here. Okay. And you wouldn't rather. If I place this in the form of a question, I always place my auxiliary first, then second my subject, and then third this bit, which is maybe considered as a verb here. So wouldn't you rather, and then you continue, you wouldn't rather I had given da 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 da. Okay, and if I form this as a question, it becomes wouldn't you rather I had given it to her myself. Il est temps que nous parlions de notre avenir. It's time we talked about our future, so it's a classic case of it's time. J'aimerais avoir des amis qui ne soient pas trop indiscrets. I'd like to have friends who were not too indiscreet. J'aimerais avoir, j'aimerais ceci, j'aimerais cela. I would like this to be, I would like them to do, right. Je crois qu'il est grand temps, so you know what we're expecting here. I think it's high time those questions were settled. Okay, so you need to use the past once again. You can use another form, but if I multiply the forms, you will get a bit confused or lost. But you could say for those questions to be settled. That's another way of avoiding this problem. You say it's high time for you to go. Okay, let me give you this example. So I can say it's time you went, for example. It's time you went. Il est temps que tu partes, il est temps que tu t'en ailles. It's time you went. Or you could say it's time for you to go. Obviously, it seems very, very well, much more easier, but you will not always come across the easier version in the MCQs. So that's why you need to learn about this structure as well. Et si elle avait rencontré quelqu'un qui n'aime pas le sport, what if? What if is imagine. The same thing as imagine she had met someone. The reason why we said she had met instead of she met is once again because in French we get elle avait rencontré. It's different from et si elle rencontrait quelqu'un qui n'aime pas le sport? In that case we would say what if she met someone? But here elle avait rencontré, she had met. It's really the pure translation of the French. Now the next one is a I wish exercise, so it's something we've already gone through, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to understand. If only he hadn't answered the phone. I wish he hadn't answered the phone. When I told you that you could replace I wish with if only, this is the perfect illustration. And this exercise is a repetition all the time, okay? I wish I could be with you. I wish I don't know why I said would, it's could. I could be with you. If only you had seen him before he left. I wish you had seen him before he left. You reuse exactly the same tense as with if only, okay? I would like him to come. I wish he would come. J'aimerais qu'il vienne is the same as si seulement il venait. Si seulement il pouvait venir, si seulement il venait, I wish he would come. Always replace I wish by if only, and you will find how to conjugate your verb after. Okay. Next exercise, choose the right verb tense. So it was mainly I wish, so same thing. I won't repeat what I've been explaining. How I miss them, I wish they were here because they are not right now. See, there is a strong indication in the sentence that this is happening now. If you were regretting the fact that they hadn't come to a party and it's over and now they won't have a second chance of coming, then you would say I wish they had been here. But because you are hoping for something right now in the present situation, then you would say, you use the past. I wish they were here. This time, in the second sentence, you are given a very strong wink wink. You say last night. And if they tell you last night, it's probably because, it's not probably, it's certain that the event is over. It's because the event is over, you're referring to something that is regret. I wish you had seen them last night. If only you had seen them last night. Try to transfer this to the French. If you said, si seulement tu étais là, means that I wish right now in the present situation you were here. If you said, si seulement t'avais pu les voir, t'avais été là, means this is over. Tu avais été là, I wish you had been here. It's the same tense as in French, right? And the last of those exercises were about I'd rather. I've already explained in the previous examples. I'd rather you left. I'd rather they hadn't told her. She's devastated now. So this one was a bit more subtle in this sentence because it means that I would have preferred, that's what it means, you didn't tell her. J'aurais préféré que tu ne lui dises pas, maintenant elle est dévastée, elle est détruite. Okay? So obviously the event must have happened considering she's devastating now. That's why they added this sentence, is to tell you that they probably told her because now she's devastated. So the event is over. So it's a preference over an event that is over. I would rather they hadn't told her. If we didn't have this indication, it would be difficult to choose. You could say, I'd rather they didn't tell her. Je préfère qu'ils ne lui disent pas. Je préférais qu'ils ne lui disent pas. Mais j'aurais préféré qu'ils ne lui aient pas dit. Right, it's a bit complicated. This is this formula here. As soon as you hear j'aurais préféré, it means that the event is over. You need to use the past perfect. So I hope this was clear. Do not hesitate once again to get in touch with me online, on Skype, by mail or anything. I can re-explain all of those things. Do not forget that these are very subtle verb tenses, that a lot of native speakers are using those verb tenses differently, but you need to keep in mind this is an exam and they will expect you to use a certain standard of grammar. So do not only rely on what native speakers are using.